All right, today we're jumping into a topic that feels like it's pulled straight out of a movie, but it's happening right now in labs around the world: artificial emotion. We're going to tackle the huge question of whether the machines we build could actually have some kind of inner life, and, what that would even mean for us. So let's just kick things off with a question that sounds, well, a little ridiculous. Can a robot feel anxiety? I mean, your first instinct just to say, no way, right? Anxiety is messy, it's human, it's biological. But you're about to see that the answer is way more complicated and interesting than you might think. So check this out. This is iCub. Researchers gave this little robot a pretty simple goal. But here's the twist. It could sense its own battery level. And as its power started getting low, something really weird started to happen. The robot, all on its own, became more careful. It started conserving energy. It developed this behavior that, for all intents and purposes, looks a whole lot like anxiety. So, what was going on there? Was iCube actually feeling anxious? Or was this something completely different? This single case is going to be our doorway into this wild world of artificial emotion. And this is the absolute key. Nobody coded a line that said, if battery is low, then start feeling anxious. Nope. This cautious behavior just emerged. It learned from the negative consequences of running out of power. And that's the whole point. This isn't about faking an emotion. It's about a system developing a useful internal state to help it succeed. This brings us to a super important idea we have to get straight. To really get what's going on, we need to pull apart two concepts that everybody confuses: an AI that just recognizes our emotions versus an AI that has its own internal machine version of emotions. Okay, so on the left, you've got artificial emotional intelligence, AEI. This is what you see all the time. It's a chatbot that hears a sad tone in your voice and says, "I'm sorry you're feeling down." It's just mimicking empathy. But on the right, that's what we're talking about today: artificial emotion, AE. This is where the AI has its own internal states that work like emotions to help it make smarter choices. So here's the more formal, kind of nerdy definition. The most important words there are integration into decision-making. See, AI isn't about an AI feeling love or jealousy the way a person does. It's about it using a functional stand-in for frustration to realize, hey, this strategy isn't working, I need to try something else. Or a stand-in for satisfaction to reinforce a really good solution it found. This is probably the best way to think about it. We all know about artificial neural networks, right? They're inspired by how neurons connect in our brains, but they are absolutely not a human brain. It's a functional model. Well, artificial emotion is the exact same idea. It's inspired by the function of our emotions, but it's not a human feeling. It's a tool for better problem solving. So this isn't just a cool theory. People are actively trying to build this stuff. So how do they do it? It turns out there's a blueprint with two main strategies for actually getting these emotion-like states into an AI. The first approach is basically what happened with iCube. You let the emotion-like states emerge through learning, through trial and error, rewards and punishments. The second way is way more direct. You actually build the emotion system right into the AI's core code, making it a fundamental part of how it sees the world, what it remembers, and how it makes a choice. Let's just zoom in on that second idea for a second, because it's pretty wild. The idea here is to use emotion as a memory filter. I mean, think about your own life. What are your strongest memories? They're almost always tied to intense emotions, right? An AI could use that same exact principle to figure out what's important and what's just noise. So here's how it would work in practice. An event that gets tagged with a high emotional value, like a major success or a critical failure, that gets saved to long-term memory. But some random, low-value event, it just gets forgotten. This makes the AI so much more efficient. It helps it learn from the things that really matter, just like we do. Okay, so you can see how powerful this could be. But it also rips open this massive can of worms. Is giving AI its own internal emotional compass a brilliant next step, or are we heading down a really, really dangerous road? So on one side, you have the absolute pioneers of AI, like Marvin Minsky, and his point is just so powerful. He basically said that emotions aren't some flaw in our design. They're a critical component of how we think. So from his point of view, artificial emotion isn't just a nice-to-have feature. It might be totally necessary to ever build a true AGI. But then you have the complete opposite take from people like Sherry Turkle. And she has this chilling warning.
She says we're creating a relational illusion, a perfect fake that gives us the feeling of connection without any of the real substance of friendship. We're trading away real, messy human relationships for an easy, predictable, algorithmic version. So, to quickly sum up the pros side, the argument is that 80 is the key to complex, nuanced decision making. It could make companion robots for the elderly, for example, way better at their jobs, and ultimately, it might just be the secret ingredient for creating truly autonomous AI. And the arguments against are just as strong. There's this risk of moral mimesis, where an AI gets so good at faking moral emotions that it can manipulate us. There's the fear that we're literally programming irrationality into our most powerful tools. And of course, there's that deep concern that we're blurring the lines between people and machines in a way that just weakens us. So where does that leave us? Are we stuck? Well, the researchers digging into this don't just throw their hands up. They actually offer a potential way forward, a roadmap for getting the good parts of AI while trying to manage those huge risks. Now, this table shows you this isn't just philosophy, it's a real engineering challenge. They're actually mapping it out. Look, you can see things like reward-grounded affect. That's basically our iCub robot. That's in the early stages. You've got salience-weighted memory and human preference alignment. Those are partially there. But then look at the bottom. The most important piece, bounded emotion safety. And what's its status? Absent. That's the safety rail that we haven't built yet. And that brings us right to the core takeaway of all this research. The experts seem to be saying that for the really advanced AI we're trying to build, some kind of artificial emotion seems pretty much unavoidable. But, and this is the biggest but you can imagine, it cannot be a wild, unpredictable system. It has to be designed from the very beginning with safety and control baked in. So what do those safety rails look like? Well, here are the big 3 rules they're proposing. First, you have to bound the emotion. The AI can have a useful level of frustration, but it can never have out-of-control rage. Second, transparency is absolutely non-negotiable. You, the user, must always know you're dealing with a machine, not a person. And third, explainability. We have to be able to pop the hood and see exactly why the AI had the emotional response it did. So it seems like building artificial emotion isn't really a choice anymore. It's just a matter of when and how. The real work is figuring out how to do it safely. And that leaves us with this final, frankly uncomfortable question to think about. If we actually succeed, if we create a system that can experience a functional equivalent of suffering, what are our obligations to it? Should it have rights?